Grandson sent me video of my daughter calling me worthless burden, the burden of silence, a matriarch's revenge. In the quiet hours of a Tuesday night, a 73-year-old grandmother's world shatters with the press of a button. A video sent by her grandson reveals the cruel truth she never wanted to face. Her own daughter calls her a worthless burden while secretly depending on her financial support. For 3 years, Nora Peterson has silently contributed $3,000 monthly to her daughter and son-in-law's mortgage, keeping them in their luxurious Spanish colonial home, all while they complained about her minimal help and plotted to take control of her assets. But the video changes everything. As Nora watches the family she sacrificed for dismiss her as worthless, something inside her breaks and something stronger forms in its place. With her financial advisor and a determined lawyer by her side, she prepares to show them exactly who's been carrying whose burden. This isn't just a story of betrayal. It's a powerful journey of a woman reclaiming her worth, setting boundaries, and discovering that family is defined by respect, not DNA. When manipulation meets consequence, when entitlement faces reality, the results are life-changing for everyone involved. Sometimes karma needs a little push, and sometimes the most satisfying revenge is simply standing in your truth. Listen as Nora transforms from silent supporter to empowered matriarch in this emotionally gripping tale of family betrayal, financial manipulation, and the liberation that comes when you finally stop carrying burdens that were never yours to bear. The text from Tyler arrives at 11:42 p.m. on a Tuesday. Grandma, I'm sorry, but you need to see this. No explanation, no warning for how my world would shatter in the next 30 seconds. I press play, and my daughter's voice fills the silent room. Mom's become such a worthless burden. Vivian lounges at her kitchen table in Scottsdale, wine glass dangling between manicured fingers. My stomach tightens as the camera captures her perfect profile, so like mine 30 years ago. After everything we do for her, she barely helps with anything. Craig leans into frame, that familiar smirk spreading across his face. She owes us after all we've sacrificed, driving her to appointments, checking on her, listening to her endless stories. He rolls his eyes dramatically, while my granddaughter Melissa nods in silent agreement. She acts like those grocery runs are some huge favor when we're drowning in bills. Vivian continues, voice dripping contempt. The least she could do is sell that beach condo she never uses anyway. My hands don't shake. They should, but they don't. 3 years of mortgage payments through my personal account to their lender. 3 years of them thinking they were making payments while I covered the bulk of their $4,250 monthly mortgage. 3 years of financial sacrifice while they complained about my minimal help. It's like she doesn't even care that we almost lost everything. Craig's voice again. The financial wizard who nearly bankrupted them with failed investments. After all we've done, she owes us more than this. The video continues, but I've heard enough. I watch it 3 more times, each viewing burning away something soft inside me, leaving only steel behind. The numbers in my spreadsheet don't lie. $144,000 invested in keeping them comfortable in that Spanish colonial with the custom pool, all while being called worthless, all while they believed I owed them. Tyler texts again. Are you okay, Grandma? Such a simple question. Am I okay discovering that 3 years of sacrifice earned me nothing but contempt? Am I okay learning that my family sees me as nothing but a financial liability, despite my silent support? I'm fine, sweetheart, I reply. Thank you for showing me the truth. Don't worry, I won't tell them you sent this. Then, after a moment's hesitation, things are about to change. And my finger hovers over the mortgage statements on my laptop screen. The payment is due in exactly 14 days. The payment I've already transferred to my account. The payment I can now choose to withhold. My phone buzzes with a message from Vivian. Mom, could you come to dinner Sunday? We need to discuss something important. I know exactly what that something is. They want more money, probably with guilt trips served as appetizers. The thought of sitting there pretending I don't know what they really think makes my stomach turn. Yet my fingers type, of course, dear, looking forward to it. The heart emoji feels ironic but necessary. I've learned from the best, after all. 73 years of being reliable, responsible, reasonable. 73 years of putting family first. 73 years of believing blood matters more than behavior. But not anymore. They have no idea that their mother, the worthless burden, has been their financial savior all along. The thought brings the first genuine smile I've felt in months. 14 days until the payment comes due. 14 days until they learn exactly who's been carrying their burden all along. Sometimes karma needs a little push. I spent 32 years as principal at Desert Vista Elementary, watching other people's children grow while mine grew distant. 3 decades of budget meetings taught me the value of documentation, while parent conferences honed my ability to see through performances. You can't fool a woman who's mediated thousands of schoolyard disputes. Children are honest in their cruelty. Adults just learn to disguise it better. Robert died 8 years ago, heart attack at 69. No warning, no goodbye, just gone between one heartbeat and the next. My husband, the cautious accountant who insisted we save 20% of every paycheck, who bought life insurance triple what seemed necessary, who transferred skills from his father's auto mechanic shop to our personal finances. Always know what's under the hood, Nora, he'd say whenever I questioned his spreadsheets. Never drive a car you can't afford to maintain. The insurance payout surprised everyone, especially Vivian. I had no idea Dad left you so comfortable, she'd said, studying the figures with narrowed eyes. What she meant was, why didn't we know you had money we could access? Robert had built our nest egg quietly, methodically, invisibly. His death left me with the beach condo in Rocky Point, retirement accounts, and investments worth approximately $1.4 million. Not wealthy by Arizona standards, but secure enough to maintain my lifestyle and occasionally help family. Vivian followed her father's financial caution until she met Craig. My son-in-law arrived with dazzling smiles and promises of market-beating returns. Within 3 years of marriage, he'd convinced her to invest her inheritance from Robert into his day trading schemes and her interior design business. It's all about risk tolerance, Mom, she'd explained with that condescending patience reserved for explaining technology to the elderly. Craig says your financial advisor is taking advantage of your generation's fear. I kept my opinions to myself. Even when they leveraged their home to expand Vivian's business into commercial properties just before the market turned, even when Craig started borrowing against their retirement accounts to cover margins, even when they bought the Spanish Colonial in North Scottsdale, despite my gentle suggestions about more modest options. You worry too much, Mom, Vivian said. Craig knows what he's doing. I've always wondered if school principals develop special muscles from keeping their mouths shut when they desperately want to speak. The self-control built over decades of not telling parents their precious children are bullies or liars. The restraint required when board members make short-sighted decisions. These skills prepared me for watching my daughter's financial train wreck in slow motion without interfering until I had no choice. 3 years ago, Vivian appeared at my door, mascara streaking down her face, hands shaking, unable to form complete sentences. It took 30 minutes and a strong cup of tea before she could explain. 3 months behind on mortgage payments, business failing, Craig's investments underwater. Foreclosure imminent. We've tried everything. Mom, she sobbed. The bank won't work with us anymore. What she didn't say, but I later discovered, was that Craig had been laid off from his consulting position 6 months earlier. They'd been hiding their financial troubles, maintaining appearances while sinking deeper into debt. I called Zara that night, my financial advisor of 15 years. Unlike Craig, she never promised spectacular returns, only careful, steady growth. This is quite a mess, Nora, she said after reviewing their financial documents. They're underwater by nearly $100,000 on the mortgage alone. Can I help them? I asked, knowing the answer would complicate everything. She considered me over her glasses. You can, but I don't recommend directly paying off their debts. It would deplete your reserves and teach them nothing. I offered to help Vivian and Craig openly, to provide a loan with proper documentation. Their reaction shocked me. We don't need charity, Craig snapped, despite the foreclosure notice on their kitchen counter. It's not charity, I explained. It's family helping family. We'll figure it out ourselves, Vivian insisted, though her red-rimmed eyes betrayed her panic. Pride and shame, a dangerous combination. In the end, we reached a compromise that preserved their dignity while protecting my investment. I would become a co-guarantor on a refinanced mortgage, making direct payments to the bank while they contributed what they could. A proper agreement was drawn up, though they believed my contribution would be much smaller than it actually was. Just until we get back on our feet, Vivian promised. I signed the papers that week, and Vivian's tears of relief nearly drowned us both. I don't know how you convinced them to refinance, she kept saying. Craig tried everything. Her gratitude lasted approximately 6 months before the patterns resumed. The expensive vacations, the luxury car purchases, the dismissive comments about my simple lifestyle. Only Tyler knew the full truth about my financial support. It happened at Melissa's graduation party 2 years ago. I'd stepped onto the patio to take a call from Zara about quarterly tax payments. When I turned around, Tyler stood there, eyebrows raised, questions forming. You're paying for Mom and Dad's house, he asked, voice barely above a whisper. I considered lying, considered misdirection, considered changing the subject. Instead, I chose honesty with my then 20-year-old grandson. Not exactly, I explained. I'm helping them keep it. We sat by the pool while everyone celebrated inside, and I explained the arrangement. His eyes widened at the monthly figures, at the total investment, at the fact that his parents had no idea of the full extent. Why would you do this when they treat you like that? He asked, gesturing toward the house where Craig was loudly explaining my outdated investment strategy to dinner guests. They're family, I said simply. Family helps family. Tyler shook his head. They don't deserve your kindness, Grandma. I patted his hand, thinking how much he resembled Robert in profile. Maybe not, but I can sleep at night knowing I tried. If I'd been paying closer attention, I might have noticed how the disrespect intensified over the years. The eye rolls when I mentioned my teacher's pension, the sighs when I declined to invest in Craig's latest scheme, the pointed comments about the beach condo I rarely used, the conversations that stopped when I entered rooms, the family vacations planned without including me until they needed my contribution. But hindsight illuminates what willful blindness obscures. For 3 years, I transferred $3,000 monthly to supplement their $1.250 payment, receiving only Christmas dinners and obligatory birthday calls in return. For 3 years, I watched them upgrade appliances, renovate bathrooms, and landscape the backyard with funds they should have used for mortgage principal. For 3 years, I chose to believe that underneath the condescension, they appreciated my silent support. The video from Tyler shattered that comfortable illusion like a rock through stained glass. The piece is too broken to repair, the damage too extensive to ignore, and now, with the next payment due in exactly 13 days, I have decisions to make that will change everything. Sometimes the kindest foundations crumble under the weight of too much ingratitude. I watched the video for the fifth time at 3:00 a.m. when sleep won't come and the desert silence feels like an accusation. My reading glasses perched on my nose, the volume low enough that only I can hear their contempt. There's something about hearing your child call you worthless that hollows out places you didn't know could empty. She acts like we should be grateful she remembers our birthdays, Vivian says, leaning toward Craig conspiratorially, as if Hallmark cards make up for how little she contributes. Remember when she got upset that we didn't invite her to Cabo? Craig laughs, draining his wine glass. Like we want to babysit on vacation. Babysit, I'm 73, not 7. I taught myself Excel at 60, traveled solo to New Zealand at 65, and still drive myself to water aerobics 3 times weekly. The last person who needed babysitting was Craig after he drank too many margaritas at Melissa's graduation and couldn't find his car keys in his own pocket. She's getting more stubborn about her money, too. Vivian continues, Mom refuses to consider helping with our remodel, even though that beach property just sits empty most of the year. The beach condo, Robert's retirement dream, the place we'd planned to spend winters watching sunsets over the Sea of Cortez. I've kept it precisely as it was when he died. His fishing hat still hanging by the door, his favorite coffee mug still in the cupboard. They've been eyeing it for years like vultures circling, measuring the wingspan of their inheritance. My phone buzzes with a text from Tyler. There's more. Grandma, they've been planning something big. Check your email. The subject line reads evidence, such a clinical word for heartbreak. Inside are screenshots from a family group chat titled Family Finances created 6 months ago with Vivian, Craig, Melissa, and their financial advisor Connor, explicitly excluding me. My fingers tremble scrolling through message after message, each one more damning than the last. Vivian, Mom thinks she's so special with her teacher's pension. She barely helps with our expenses while I'm struggling to rebuild my business after Craig's situation. So they've been hiding Craig's unemployment from me. That explains the increased pressure for financial help. Craig, we should ask her to sell that beach condo she never uses anyway. What does a woman her age need with a vacation property? After all we've done, driving her to appointments and checking on her, she can't even properly support her family. Melissa, I feel bad about this. Guys, Grandma did help with my tuition and car repairs. Craig, that's pocket change compared to what she could do. Connor says based on her property values and pension, she's sitting on nearly $2 million. Connor, with proper planning, your family could access those resources more effectively. The condo alone would solve your immediate cash flow problems. My throat tightens reading their clinical dissection of my worth, reduced to dollar signs and decimal points. No mention of the emergency funds I provided when Melissa's car broke down. No acknowledgement of the $40,000 I contributed to her college fund. No recognition of the $144,000 I've paid toward their mortgage. Ayemi. The screenshots continue, revealing their Sunday dinner agenda in meticulous detail. Craig, remember the approach we discussed first. Appreciation for all she's done. Then gentle concerns about her financial management. Then the proposal about the condo. Vivian, Mom always responds to guilt, especially about family support. I'll mention how much we've struggled with the business rebuilding costs. I won't mention the thing with Craig yet. She'll just lecture him about responsibility. Melissa, surprisingly, I don't feel good about this. We're basically manipulating Grandma. Craig. We're helping her make better financial decisions. Connor says emotional appeals work best with elderly women. Melissa. I don't know, sir. Vivian. Just talk about wanting to document family history at the condo before memories fade. That should soften her up. They've scripted the entire manipulation, crafted emotional triggers, mapped my psychological weaknesses like generals planning a military campaign. And the beach condo is just the beginning. Another message from Connor outlines Phase 2, consolidating my accounts under their management for better family financial integration. My laptop screen glows in the pre-dawn darkness as I pull up the complete mortgage records. Each payment neatly documented, each transfer from my account recorded. Principal $483,000. Current balance $422, $500. My contributions $188,000 over 3 years. Their contributions just $45,000, all while they complained about my minimal help. Dawn breaks across the desert as I email Zara. Need urgent consultation regarding co-guarantor agreement and financial protection options. She calls within 30 minutes despite the early hour. I saw your email, she says, foregoing pleasantries. It's happened. I explain everything. The video, the text messages, the planned manipulation, the Sunday dinner ambush. My voice remains surprisingly steady considering the foundation of my family relationships has crumbled beneath me. I had a feeling this day might come. Zara sighs. I've kept all documentation current precisely for this scenario. What are my options? I ask, staring out at the saguaro cacti standing sentinel in my backyard. Survivors adapted to harsh conditions, storing resources for drought. Perhaps I should have learned from them sooner. Legally, you have several paths, she explains. The co-guarantor agreement gives you the right to demand repayment of your contributions if they fail to meet their obligations. We documented everything as a contingent loan. Remember, and if I wanted to exercise that option, the question feels both terrible and necessary, like lancing an infected wound. You send formal notice that you're terminating financial support, along with an accounting of all payments made and terms for repayment. They'll likely be unable to make the full payment themselves, which triggers the default provisions. The system automatically sends notices. Yes, Zara confirms. You won't need to have that confrontation personally. My phone buzzes with another message from Vivian. Mom, could you come to dinner this Sunday? We need to discuss something important. Round 5:30 p.m. The audacity takes my breath away. Their plan proceeds exactly as scheduled, unaware that I've seen their playbook, unaware that their financial lifeline is about to be severed. I could cancel, could confront them immediately, could unleash decades of pent-up frustration. Instead, I type, "Of course, dear. Should I bring anything?" Her reply comes quickly. "Just yourself. Looking forward to it." I can almost see her smug smile, believing her prey approaches willingly. The countdown begins. 13 days until the mortgage payment comes due. 3 days until their Sunday performance. The desert heat rises outside my window, distorting the horizon like truth bending under pressure. I'll attend their dinner, I tell Zara, our call still active. I want to see the manipulation firsthand. Are you sure that's wise? She asks, concern evident. I think about decades of diminishment, years of condescension, mountains of ingratitude. I think about Tyler's courage in sending that video, revealing their true feelings. I think about Robert, who always said, "Know what's under the hood, Nora." Now I do. It isn't wise, I reply finally. But it's necessary. I've spent my life being reasonable. Perhaps it's time to be resolute instead. The Spanish colonial rises before me, terracotta roof gleaming in late afternoon sun, Desert landscaping perfectly manicured, not a pebble out of place. 5,000 square feet of entitlement built on my silent sacrifice. I sit in my sensible Camry, air conditioning humming softly while I gather strength for what's coming. The mortgage payment deadline looms 8 days away. Their performance awaits inside. After my conversation with Zara, I met with Maxwell Green, an attorney specializing in elder financial protection. Unlike Zara's calm practicality, Maxwell's righteous indignation on my behalf was oddly comforting. "This is textbook financial elder abuse," he said, reviewing the evidence. "The courts take a dim view of this kind of manipulation." Together, we prepared the necessary documents, formal notice terminating my financial support, accounting of all contributions, demand for repayment, and protective orders preventing any attempts to claim cognitive impairment. I even completed a thorough cognitive assessment with flying colors, creating a legal shield against their potential phase 2. "You don't need to confront them alone," Maxwell had said. "I can be present if you wish, but this part of the journey is mine alone. Before legal notices and formal demands, I need to witness their deception with clear eyes. I need to give them one last chance to show a shred of genuine appreciation." I press the doorbell like the visitor they believe me to be. "Mom." Vivian's face arranges itself into a mask of delight as she opens the door. "You look wonderful." The lie slides easily from her lips. "I'm wearing the same beige slacks and blue blouse I've worn to the last 3 family gatherings." She hasn't noticed before. Won't notice now. Her eyes don't actually see me. Only the resources I represent. "Something smells delicious," I say, allowing her cheek kiss. Her Chanel perfume costs more than my monthly grocery budget. "Craig's making his famous paella," she gushes, steering me inside, arm around my shoulders in practiced intimacy. "And wait until you see what Melissa brought for dessert." The house gleams with evidence of their financial irresponsibility. New abstract artwork hangs in the foyer. Imported tile lines the entryway. A chandelier I don't recognize sparkles overhead. All purchased while they made minimum payments on the mortgage I supplement. All acquired while they called me worthless behind my back. "Nora." Craig emerges from the kitchen, dish towel slung over his shoulder, performance of domestic harmony in full swing. Perfect timing, wine. "Just water for now," I reply, watching disappointment flicker across his face. They want me relaxed, inhibitions lowered for what's coming. I've seen this routine at too many parent conferences to be fooled. Bad news always follows excessive compliments. Melissa appears from the living room, phone in hand, smile too bright. "Grandma, you look amazing. Have you lost weight?" Another lie. I've maintained the same 142 pounds for 15 years. The weight that allows me to climb stairs without winded pauses, though they treat me like an invalid whenever it serves their narrative. "Same as always, dear," I say, accepting her quick hug. The kitchen renovation stuns me despite preparation. Gleaming quartz countertops, professional-grade appliances, custom cabinetry that must have cost $30,000 minimum funded by the money they should have put toward principal while I covered the interest. "Do you like what we've done with the kitchen?" "Mom?" Vivian gestures proudly. "We finally updated last month." "Very impressive," I murmur, calculating costs against their claimed financial struggles. "Must have been quite an investment." Craig laughs too loudly. "Well, you know what they say about kitchens and bathrooms. Always worth putting money into. Money they claim not to have. Money they'll ask me to provide before the evening ends. Dinner unfolds with choreographed precision. Craig serves paella with theatrical flourish. Melissa pours wine with generous hands. refilling my water when I decline a second glass. Vivian leads conversation through carefully neutral topics, asking about my book club, my garden club, my neighbors' things they've never shown interest in before. Tequil. The performance would be impressive if I couldn't see the script so clearly. Remember that summer at Rocky Point when I was 12? Melissa asks right on cue, dessert plates before us. When Grandpa taught me to fish off the dock, phase one begins, emotional softening through nostalgia. He was so patient with you, I reply, eyes fixed on my untouched chocolate cake. Spent hours showing you how to bait the hook just right. I was thinking, she continues, voice carefully modulated, it would be wonderful to document those family memories at the condo before they fade away. I could bring my camera equipment next month, maybe stay a week, create a beautiful photo book of the place and all its history. The translation isn't difficult. Let me establish a presence at the beach property, document its contents, prepare for eventual possession. What a lovely thought. I respond noncommittally. Craig leans forward, elbows on table, fingers steepled. Actually, Nora, that connects to something Vivian and I wanted to discuss with you. Vivian places her hand over mine, a gesture that might appear affectionate to outsiders but feels like restraint. Mom, we're concerned about how much you have to manage on your own. Phase 2. Concern for my capabilities. The beach condo, the finances, the day-to-day responsibilities. Craig continues, shaking his head sadly. It's a lot for anyone to handle, especially at my age. I finish for him, eyebrow raised. He has the grace to look momentarily flustered. Well, I was going to say, especially someone living alone. We've been thinking, Vivian jumps in smoothly, about how to make things easier for you and about our family's future. Phase 3, the proposal. The business has been struggling to rebuild after the pandemic. She sighs, performance of distress perfectly calibrated. And Melissa's student loans are such a burden. Melissa nods on cue, eyes downcast. The student loans I helped pay, the education I helped fund, erased from the narrative. Convenient amnesia? We've looked at our options, Craig says, voice dropping into what he believes sounds like financial expertise, and we think there's a solution that helps everyone. The beach condo hangs unspoken between us, the prize they've circled for years. Robert's sanctuary, my refuge, their target. If you sold the condo, Vivian finally says, squeezing my hand for emphasis, you could free up all that equity, invest it more efficiently with Connor's help. No more property taxes, maintenance costs, hurricane insurance, Craig adds. And we could help manage the proceeds, make sure they're working harder for our whole family. Our family, as if my resources naturally belong to them, as if their entitlement supersedes my ownership. That's certainly something to consider, I say carefully, though I'm quite attached to the place. Disappointment flashes across Vivian's face, quickly masked. Of course, Mom, we understand completely. We just worry about you managing it all alone. And the financial benefits would be substantial, Craig presses. Property values in Rocky Point have peaked. According to Connor, selling now would maximize your return. My return, not theirs. The pretense maintained. You've given me a lot to think about. I respond neutrally. I should probably consult Zara before making any decisions about the condo. Their expressions tighten at the mention of my financial advisor, the woman who helped me protect myself from precisely this scenario. Mom, Vivian says, voice hardening slightly. I really think Connor would be better equipped to advise on this. Zara's approach is so conservative. I appreciate the suggestion, I reply, rising from my chair. Would you mind if I use the restroom? Of course, we redid the powder room too, Vivian chirps, mask of concern sliding back into place. The guest bathroom has been remodeled with Italian marble and brushed gold fixtures. I wash my hands slowly, counting heartbeats, steadying nerves. 8 days until the mortgage payment. 8 days until this power dynamic shifts permanently. I dry my hands on monogrammed towels, their initials, not mine, though I've paid for more of this house than they have. As I exit, I hear a phone conversation from the slightly ajar home office door. I pause instinctively, principal's intuition sensing trouble. She's not going for it. Craig's frustrated whisper carries clearly. All that setup and she's still clinging to that advisor. Give it time. Connor's voice startles me. I didn't know he was here. Hidden away during dinner? She's the right demographic for this approach. Elderly women typically require multiple conversations before major financial decisions. We don't have time, Vivian hisses. The business needs capital now. Craig's severance is almost gone, and the renovation costs were higher than expected. Then we move to contingency plans. Connor replies calmly. How much does she know about her recent fall? My breath catches. What fall I haven't fallen? Nothing major, Craig says, sounding smugly confident. She tripped on the sidewalk when we had lunch last month. Barely a stumble, really, but we've documented it as a concerning loss of balance. Perfect, Connor says. Then we discuss how these incidents, coupled with her resistance to sensible financial planning, might indicate declining decision-making capacity. Arizona has relatively straightforward processes for family members concerned about cognitive decline. The world tilts beneath my feet, blood rushing in my ears. They're discussing fabricating evidence to question my capacity. My own family planning to strip my autonomy, my dignity, my independence through fraud. That seems extreme, Melissa says, hesitation in her voice, the first hint of conscience I've heard. It's for her own protection, Vivian insists. Mom clearly isn't making sound decisions anymore. The way she clings to that beach property, emotional attachments overriding financial sense. Besides, Craig adds, it's not like we'd put her in a home. She'd stay in her house, just with better oversight of her resources. My resources. Their target. The mask completely dropped behind closed doors. I back away silently. Decades of school hallway supervision teaching me to move without detection. Their voices fade as I return to the kitchen, arranging my features into pleasant neutrality, though something has crystallized inside me, something hard and unfamiliar and necessary. For 3 years, I've supplemented their mortgage, believing family helps family. For decades, I've overlooked their condescension, excused their entitlement, forgiven their dismissal. But planning to declare me incompetent for financial gain crosses a line I cannot ignore, my zapas. There you are, Mom, Vivian says when I re-enter the kitchen. We were just about to have coffee. Would you like some? Actually, I should probably head home. I reply, checking my watch. It gets difficult to drive after dark these days. Their eyes meet fractional disappointment. Plan A unsuccessful tonight. Little do they know, Plan B has already failed, too. Little do they know that in 8 days, when the mortgage payment comes due, everything will change. We understand completely, Craig says, patting my shoulder condescendingly. We can continue our conversation later this week. Yes, I agree with the first genuine smile of the evening. We certainly will. I drive home through deepening desert twilight, emotions churning beneath my calm exterior. They've revealed themselves completely now, the manipulations, the deceptions, the willingness to destroy me for their gain. The decision that has been forming since Tyler's video solidifies into certainty. This is no longer about teaching ungrateful children a lesson. This is about protecting myself from predators who happen to share my DNA. Between days 13 and 8, the pressure mounts. The morning after the dinner, my phone rings 6 times before 900 a.m. Vivian, Craig, Vivian again, Connor, Melissa, Craig again. I let them all go to voicemail, watching notifications accumulate like evidence. I saw. Their messages share the same urgent tone, different only in approach. Mom, just checking in after our wonderful dinner. Let's continue our discussion about the condo. Call me. Nora, Connor mentioned some concerning issues with your property taxes. Best to address them quickly before penalties accrue. Grandma, I'd love to schedule that photo documentation at Rocky Point. Next weekend would be perfect. Each call, each text, each voicemail. Another brick in the wall they're building around my resources. The vultures circle, tightening their formation, sensing weakness that doesn't exist. I send one response to Vivian. Still considering everything we discussed. Need some time to think. The deliberately vague message designed to keep them waiting while I prepare. By day 6, their tactics intensify. Vivian appears unannounced at my door, casserole in hand, concern painted across her features. Mom, I brought dinner? You sounded tired on the phone yesterday. Thought you might need a break from cooking. I haven't spoken to her by phone all week. The lie comes easily to her. How thoughtful, I say, allowing her inside, knowing this isn't about casserole. She settles at my kitchen table, launches into rehearsed speech about Connor's discovery of property tax irregularities at the beach condo. How serious the situation appears, how quickly it needs addressing, how selling might be the simplest solution to avoid legal complications. Sounds concerning, I respond noncommittally. I'll check with Zara. Frustration flashes across her face, quickly masked. Mom, this requires immediate action. Connor has a buyer already interested. All cash offer above market value. Of course he does. How convenient. I'll consider it. I promise without promising anything. Day 4 brings Craig unexpected appearance at my water aerobics class, something he's never shown interest in before. He waits by the pool exit, towel wrapped around my shoulders, chlorine still stinging my eyes. Nora, I was in the neighborhood, thought I'd save you the drive home. The neighborhood of a senior center 5 miles from his office. Another performance? In the car, he launches into concerns about my driving, mentions article about seniors knowing when to give up the keys, suggests they could manage transportation for me if I lived closer to them. The implication clear sell the condo, move in with them, surrender independence along with assets. I smile, nod, say little, but notice his growing frustration with my non-committal responses. The pressure builds with each passing day, each failed attempt to access my resources. Day 3, I send the letter. After final consultation with Maxwell and Zara, I mail formal notification to Vivian and Craig termination of financial support, effective immediately, detailed accounting of all mortgage contributions made over 3 years, demand for repayment of $108,000 within 30 days. Notice that failure to repay will result in legal action and potential forced sale of the property. I also include a personal letter explaining my decision. Dear Vivian and Craig, this is perhaps the most difficult letter I've ever written. For 3 years, I've silently supported your mortgage with monthly payments of $3,000, believing it was my duty as a mother to help during difficult times. I did this out of love, expecting nothing in return but basic respect and appreciation. I recently discovered that, despite this significant financial support, you consider me a worthless burden. I've seen the video of your kitchen conversation. I've read the group messages planning to manipulate me out of my beach property. I overheard your discussion with Connor about fabricating evidence of cognitive decline to gain control of my finances. These actions have broken my trust beyond repair. Effective immediately, I am terminating all financial support. The enclosed documents detail my contributions and the terms for repayment. This is not a decision I've made lightly or in anger, but one of self-preservation and dignity. I will always love you as my daughter, but I can no longer enable behavior that diminishes both of us. Mom, I send copies to Maxwell and Zara, then wait for the inevitable storm. It arrives on day 2, exactly as expected. Vivian calls 17 times in 2 hours. Craig sends increasingly hostile texts demanding explanation. Connor leaves a voicemail suggesting I'm acting irrationally and should consult family before making financial decisions, precisely the narrative they've been building. I respond to none of it. By evening, they appear at my door together, faces contorted with a mix of panic and indignation. Mom, what is this? Vivian thrusts the letter toward me, hand trembling. Some kind of joke. May we come in? I ask calmly, as if they were any visitors and not family in crisis. They follow me to the living room, where I've prepared for this meeting with documentation spread across the coffee table. Evidence of my contributions, bank statements, the co-guarantor agreement they signed but clearly never read carefully. Is this your idea of punishment? Craig demands, pacing like a caged animal. Because we didn't immediately jump at selling the condo. This has nothing to do with punishment, I reply evenly. This is about honesty and consequences. What are you talking about? Vivian's voice pitches higher. We've always been honest with you. I reach for my tablet and press play. Their voices fill the room, worthless burden, echoing between us like a physical presence. The color drains from Vivian's face. Craig freezes mid-stride. Where did you get that? He whispers. Does it matter? It's you. Isn't it your true feelings, expressed when you thought I couldn't hear? Vivian recovers first, switching tactics with practiced ease. People say things they don't mean when they're frustrated. Mom, you know that. We were just venting after a difficult day. And the group chat about manipulating me out of the beach condo. Were you just venting then too? Or when you discussed having me declared incompetent if I didn't comply? Their expressions confirm everything. They never expected me to know. Never imagined I'd have evidence. Never believed I'd stand up for myself. You've been spying on us, Craig accuses, deflection his default setting. No, I've been protected by someone who cares enough to show me the truth. Tyler, Vivian hisses, connecting the dots. Leave him out of this, I say firmly. This is between us. 3 years of mortgage payments I've made while you renovated kitchens and took luxury vacations. 3 years of being treated with condescension while silently keeping you afloat. We never asked you to pay our mortgage, Craig shouts, his facade cracking. You begged for help when foreclosure was imminent. I correct him. You agreed to the co-guarantor arrangement. You just didn't realize how much I was actually contributing because your pride wouldn't allow you to accept direct assistance. So this is revenge, Vivian says, tears forming. You're going to what make us homeless because of some thoughtless comments. This is consequence. I correct her. Something you've avoided for too long. The agreement clearly states that if I withdraw financial support, you become responsible for the full payment. Can you make the $250 payment due in 2 days? Their silence answers for them. You can't do this, Craig says finally, desperation replacing anger. We're family. Yes, we are, and I've honored that connection with respect and financial support. You've honored it with contempt and manipulation. What do you want? Vivian asks directly. An apology. Fine. I'm sorry we said those things. Sorry you were caught, I clarify. not sorry for the behavior itself. What will fix this? Craig interjects. There must be something. The question reveals everything about how they see this situation as a negotiation, a game, something to be manipulated rather than a fundamental breach of trust and decency. This isn't something to fix, I explain. This is a reckoning long overdue. For years, I've supported you financially while you've treated me with contempt. I've contributed $188,000 to your mortgage while you've called me stingy and worthless. I've maintained your lifestyle while you've plotted to take control of my assets. So this is it. Vivian's voice breaks. You're just cutting us off, your own daughter. I'm enforcing boundaries that should have existed years ago. The choice now is yours. Honor the repayment terms or face legal consequences. We don't have $100,000 lying around, Craig explodes. You know that. Then you'll need to sell the house. I say simply. Downsize to something within your means. Use the equity to repay what you owe. The housing market is terrible right now, he counters. We'd lose money. That's unfortunate, I acknowledge. But not my problem. Their shock at my firm stance would be almost comical if it weren't so sad. They've relied on my capitulation for so long, they can't fathom this new reality. What about Melissa? Vivian asks, grasping for leverage. Are you punishing her too? Your own granddaughter. Melissa made her choices, I reply, remembering her silent complicity in the kitchen video, her participation in their schemes. She sat by while you called me worthless. She helped plan how to manipulate me out of my beach property. She's an adult responsible for her own actions. This will destroy our family, Vivian says, tears now falling freely. You destroyed our family, I correct her gently. When you decided my value was measured only by what I could provide financially, when you plotted to take control of my assets rather than simply asking for help with respect and gratitude, when you taught your children that elderly parents are burdens rather than people deserving dignity. What about Tyler? Craig asks suddenly. Are you turning him against us too? Tyler made his own choice to show me the truth. Perhaps you should ask yourself why your son felt compelled to warn me about his own parents. They leave without resolution, without a plan, without the easy solution they came expecting. Just the weight of consequences finally catching up to years of entitlement. As the door closes behind them, I feel neither triumph nor regret. Only the quiet certitude that comes from finally standing in my truth after years of silent sacrifice. The mortgage payment deadline arrives right on schedule. Their partial payment of $1,250 insufficient to cover the $4,250 obligation. The bank sends automatic notices. The legal process begins. The reckoning continues. 1 week after the confrontation, the attempts to regain control begin. Like autumn leaves, sudden and insincere apologies cover my doorstep. Vivian calls daily, her voice modulating between tearful pleas and thinly veiled accusations. Mom, please, we can work this out as a family. Everyone says things they don't mean sometimes. I listen quietly, noting how her apologies focus on the discovery of their behavior rather than the behavior itself. Sorry they were caught. Not sorry for the plotting against me. Craig's approach is more transactional. Nora, we're prepared to offer monthly payments at an increased rate. We can formalize a proper mortgage with interest beneficial to all parties. His proposal never acknowledges the betrayal, the manipulation, the planned guardianship. Just numbers on a page, as if our relationship could be reduced to financial transactions. Perhaps in his mind, it always was. Tyler visits regularly, bringing groceries I don't need, company I treasure. We sit in my sunroom watching hummingbirds battle over the feeder. their tiny bodies fierce with determination. They've been calling me constantly, he admits, stirring sugar into his tea. Dad threatened to cut me off financially if I don't help convince you to reconsider. Are you worried? I ask, studying his profile, so like Robert's. He smiles, surprising me with its certainty. I've been saving for years. Grandma, I knew eventually I'd need to stand on my own. Besides, I've applied for that engineering internship in Phoenix. Pride swells within me. You'll get it. You've always been the practical one. Like Grandpa, he says, and we both smile at memories of Robert's steady presence. Melissa is the surprise. She arrives one afternoon alone, not part of the coordinated family pressure campaign. Her face lacks the practiced concern of her parents, showing instead genuine conflict. Can we talk, Grandma? She asks, hands twisting in her lap. About everything that's happened, I invite her in, cautious but willing to listen. I feel terrible, she begins once we're seated in the living room. I knew what Mom and Dad were planning with the beach condo, but I didn't think they'd go as far as, she trails off, as far as fabricating concerns about my mental capacity. I finish for her. She winces. I would never have supported that, ever, but I didn't speak up when I should have, and I'm sorry. Unlike her parents' calculated apologies, Melissa's remorse seems genuine. Her eyes meet mine directly, without evasion. Why did you go along with any of it? I ask, the question that's troubled me most about her involvement. She sighs heavily. It's complicated. Mom and Dad have been struggling more than they let on. Dad lost his job over a year ago. Something about compliance violations they covered up to save face. They've been living off credit cards, taking cash advances to make minimum payments. It's a mess. They never told me about Craig's job loss, I say, though it explains much about their increased desperation. They didn't tell anyone. Dad's whole identity is wrapped up in being the successful provider. When things fell apart, they just kept pretending everything was fine, digging themselves deeper. And you felt caught in the middle, I suggest. She nods, tears forming. They've always been so, overwhelming. Going against them feels impossible. But watching them plot against you, it made me sick. Grandma, I just didn't know how to stop it. For the first time since this began, I feel a crack in my protective armor. Melissa isn't her parents, though she's been shaped by their influence. Her complicity came from weakness, not malice. Thank you for being honest with me now, I say finally. That's a beginning. Do you think you'll ever forgive them? She asks hesitantly. Forgiveness may be possible someday. I reply carefully. But trust must be earned, not given, and right now, that bridge seems very far away. She nods, understanding the distinction. As she leaves, she hugs me tightly, not the quick, perfunctory embrace of recent years, but something reminiscent of her childhood, before status and appearances became the family religion. 2 months after the initial confrontation, legal reality begins to sink in. Vivian and Craig meet with Maxwell at his office, finally acknowledging they cannot make the mortgage payments without my assistance. They've agreed to sell the house. Maxwell reports afterwards. We've negotiated terms that protect your interests while giving them time to find appropriate housing. No further manipulation attempts, I ask. They came prepared for battle, but the documentation was irrefutable. The co-guarantor agreement, the payment records, the evidence of their plans, they have no legal ground to stand on. I believe they finally accepted reality. Their capitulation brings no joy, only a sad recognition of how unnecessary this conflict had been. Had they simply approached me with respect and gratitude, I would have continued supporting them gladly. It was never about the money, it was about the dismissal of my worth beyond what I could provide. 3 months later, the Spanish colonial is listed for sale. Vivian and Craig find a modest three-bedroom apartment closer to Melissa's place, a significant downsizing, but hardly destitution. The housing market proves better than Craig predicted, and the sale provides enough to repay my contribution with the agreed-upon interest. Throughout this period, I maintain clear boundaries. I decline their invitations to family gatherings that feel more like attempts to reestablish control than genuine reconciliation. I communicate primarily through Maxwell, keeping emotional manipulation at bay while legal and financial matters resolve. Tyler becomes my most frequent visitor, our relationship deepening through the crisis. His engineering internship becomes a job offer, launching his career with a promising start. He brings his new girlfriend to Sunday meals, a thoughtful young woman studying geriatric social work who asks questions and actually listens to my answers. Melissa and I rebuild slowly: coffee dates, occasional shopping trips, conversations that grow increasingly honest about family dynamics and personal responsibility. She begins therapy, working to understand her role in the family system and establish healthier patterns. Yaisewam. Vivian and Craig remain distant, pride still preventing the honest self assessment that might begin healing. Occasional text messages, birthday cards with formal signatures, the minimum contact necessary to maintain the appearance of family connection. I find, surprisingly, that their absence creates space for new growth in my life. Without the constant drain of their needs and demands, I discover energy for long neglected interests. I join a watercolor class at the community center, my clumsy initial attempts evolving into landscapes that capture the desert's stark beauty. I volunteer twice monthly at Desert Vista Elementary, my old school, reading to kindergartners who care nothing about my net worth, only my ability to do voices for different characters. I visit the beach condo monthly now, no longer preserving it as a shrine to Robert, but actually living in it as he would have wanted. I've joined a morning walking group of fellow retirees, made friends with the couple next door who share my love of mystery novels, learned to paddleboard at 73. The burden of family obligation lifted. I discover parts of myself long submerged under responsibility and sacrifice. Do you ever regret it? Zara asks during our quarterly financial review. The foundation's accounts healthy, my personal finances secure, as article. I consider the question carefully, watching boats on the Sea of Cortez from my balcony. I regret that it became necessary. I regret not establishing boundaries sooner. I regret believing that financial support could substitute for mutual respect. I reply thoughtfully, but not the outcome. No, the outcome has been clarifying for all of us. When the Spanish colonial finally sells, I make a decision that surprises everyone, including myself. You want to do what with your portion? Maxwell asks, eyebrows raised when I explain my plan. Create a scholarship fund for Desert Vista Elementary graduates. I repeat, and fund a financial literacy program for seniors at the community center. The Eleanor Reed Educational Foundation takes shape with remarkable speed. The scholarship will support promising students who, like many I observed during my years as principal, have potential limited only by financial constraints. The financial literacy program addresses the vulnerability I experienced firsthand, seniors navigating a world increasingly designed to separate them from their resources. It's perfect, Grandma, Tyler says when I share the news. Using the money that caused so much conflict to help others. He's been instrumental in setting up the foundation's website and social media presence. His technical skills complementing my educational background in ways that make the project stronger than either of us could manage alone. Our weekly dinners have become a cherished routine, expanding occasionally to include his girlfriend Amal and, more recently, Melissa, whose cautious re-entry into my life continues with growing authenticity. I'm adding a genealogy project to the foundation's work. I tell them over dessert one evening, recording family histories of local seniors before those stories are lost. That's brilliant, Amal enthuses. So many families lose their connections to the past because no one thought to document the stories. I'd like to help, Melissa offers tentatively. I could photograph the participants, create portraits to accompany their stories. Her offer touches me deeply. This isn't the manipulative photo documentation she once proposed for the beach condo, but something genuine using her talents to contribute to a meaningful project. I'd like that very much, I tell her, watching her face brighten with relief and purpose. The project connects me with extended family members I'd lost touch with over the years, cousins in Minnesota, a nephew in Florida, Robert's brother in Chicago. The Reed family tree expands beyond the tight, dysfunctional unit Vivian and Craig had cultivated, reminding me that family can take many forms. 6 months after the sale, Vivian reaches out with an unexpected request. Mom, could we meet for coffee, just the two of us? We choose neutral territory, a cafe halfway between our homes. She arrives looking different somehow, less polished, hair pulled back simply, minimal makeup, clothing modest rather than designer. The absence of performance is notable. Thank you for agreeing to see me, she begins, hands cupped around her mug. I've been doing a lot of thinking. I nod, allowing her space to continue without interruption. When you stopped supporting us, I was furious, convinced you were being cruel and vindictive. She admits, it's taken time to see that you were actually right. The admission clearly costs her. Vivian has never been one to acknowledge mistakes. We were taking advantage of your generosity while giving nothing in return, she continues. Not even basic respect. I'm deeply ashamed of how we treated you. What's brought about this realization? I ask carefully, wary of another manipulation. She smiles sadly. Reality, living within our actual means. Craig and I separated 3 months ago. The financial pressure was just the final straw in a relationship built on appearances rather than substance. This is news. I'm sorry to hear that. Don't be, she says with surprising frankness. It should have happened years ago. We brought out the worst in each other, the materialism, the status obsession, the constant striving for more. And now? Now I'm working as an office manager at a dental practice. Nothing glamorous, but steady income. I'm taking night classes to renew my teaching credential. Did you know I originally wanted to teach art before I met Craig? I hadn't known. Somewhere along the way, my daughter's dreams had been subsumed by the pursuit of status and appearance. The apartment feels more like home than that giant house ever did, she continues, and I'm learning to be comfortable with who I am rather than what I own. That sounds like progress, I offer, still cautious but sensing genuine change. I don't expect forgiveness, she says, meeting my eyes directly. What we did was unforgivable. But I want you to know I understand now, and I'm truly sorry not for getting caught, but for the hurt we caused. For the first time since this began, I feel a glimmer of possibility. Not reconciliation, not yet, but perhaps the beginning of a new, more honest relationship. Thank you for telling me, I say simply. That means something. We finish our coffee in companionable silence, the weight of unspoken recriminations finally beginning to lift. 2 weeks later, I receive an email from Craig, formal, businesslike, but containing something I never expected: an apology without excuses. I behaved abominably toward you, he writes. The failure was entirely mine. I projected my financial inadequacies onto you, resenting your stability while depending on your support. There is no justification for how I treated you, and I am profoundly sorry. And he adds that he's entered treatment for financial addiction and narcissistic tendencies, working to understand the patterns that led to his behavior. He asks nothing of me, no forgiveness, no reconciliation, no financial assistance, just acknowledgement of the harm he caused. I send a brief reply. Thank you for your honesty. I wish you well in your journey toward healing. It's not forgiveness, not fully, but it's recognition of a step in the right direction. My beach condo has become a true second home now. I've redecorated portions of it while preserving elements that honor Robert's memory. His fishing hat still hangs by the door, but beside it now hangs my new wide-brimmed sun hat for paddleboarding. His favorite coffee mug remains in the cupboard, but I've added my own collection of handmade pottery from local artisans. Oisinyan. I've started a small blog documenting life after 70, sharing stories of reinvention and discovery that resonate with others navigating this stage of life. The third act, I call it, celebrating the unexpected freedom and growth that can come with age. Did you ever imagine your life would take this turn? My neighbor Esther asks as we watch the sunset from my balcony, margaritas in hand, the sky painted in impossible pinks and golds. Never, I admit with a laugh. I thought I knew exactly how my story would unfold. Support my family, be the dependable matriarch, fade quietly into the background as I aged, and instead, I gesture toward the horizon, the endless possibility it represents. Instead, I found my voice, set boundaries, created something meaningful, connected with people who value me for who I am, not what I can provide. All because your grandson sent that video, she muses. All because I finally saw the truth and chose to act on it, I correct gently. The journey from victim to empowered didn't happen in a single moment. Not when Tyler sent the video. Not when I withheld the mortgage payment. Not when they received formal notice of financial separation. It happened gradually through each act of self-respect, each refusal to accept manipulation, each boundary established and maintained. The burden I carried wasn't financial support, but the weight of one-sided love, of giving without reciprocity, of accepting disrespect to maintain relationships that existed only in my imagination. Sometimes the greatest act of love is allowing consequences to teach what kindness cannot. Sometimes the heaviest burdens we carry are the relationships we should have set down long ago. I watched the sunset paint the water gold, 73 years of life stretching behind me, unknown years ahead, finally unshackled, finally unburdened, finally free. Nora Peterson's story doesn't end with confrontation or revenge. It begins anew with something far more powerful: liberation. From the ashes of betrayal, she built not just boundaries, but a legacy. The Eleanor Reed Educational Foundation now supports deserving students and vulnerable seniors, transforming the money that once fueled family conflict into a force for community good. Her relationship with Tyler deepened into a partnership of shared values and mutual respect. Melissa found redemption through honesty and growth. Even Vivian and Craig, stripped of pretense and privilege, began the painful process of authentic self-examination. Most importantly, Nora discovered that life at 73 could contain more joy, purpose, and self-discovery than she ever imagined. Her blog, The Third Act, inspires thousands of seniors to reject invisibility and embrace possibility. This isn't just a story about standing up to family manipulation. It's about what happens when we remove the burdens we never should have carried, when we finally recognize that our value isn't measured by what we provide to others, but by the dignity with which we honor ourselves. For listeners struggling with boundary violations, family expectations, or the invisible labor of maintaining relationships at your own expense. Let Nora's journey be both comfort and courage. You are never too old to reclaim your worth. You are never too kind to deserve respect. And sometimes, the act of putting down someone else's burden becomes the moment you truly begin to live.